one of the most important figures in Czech and Slovak and Slavic and Russian stories is that old evil witch Baba Yaga. The Baba, the bony-legged one, who had a nose that was so long she could stir the soup. George Washington may have had wooden teeth. The Baba Yaga understood that if you really wanted to eat something, and you really wanted to chew thoroughly, you didn't need wooden teeth when your own fell out. You needed iron teeth. And she had teeth made of iron. And they were sharp. Most of the time, if you came to the Baba Yaga's house deep in the forest, you didn't come back out again. Because she loved to eat people. Especially hapless little girls who wandered into the forest on some errand or another. Occasionally, if you did everything just exactly right, she might help you. But more often than not, she just ate you. That's Baba Yaga. Now once, there was a little girl, and she was a lovely little thing. Pretty as all get out, and of course kind and sweet. And, well, her mother had died, so it was just her and her father. And they lived in their little house perfectly happily. When it came to tea time, they would sit on opposite sides of the table with the big samovar of tea in the middle. And they'd play peekaboo around it. But, as so frequently happens in an old story, the father decided that maybe his little girl needed a mother around the house. So he got married again. Now, I don't know what it is about these fathers in these old stories that they don't seem to have very good taste when it comes to selecting second wives. Because we know that stepmothers, as a general rule, are kindly people. But this stepmother was not. She was mean. Oh, she was all sweetness and light when her husband was around. She was all, oh, my darling, can't I get you this? But I tell you what, when it came time for tea, and the little girl came in, she said, little girls don't need tea. Here, here's some crust from the bread. Go out to the shed and eat out there. Let the grown-ups have their tea. And while the grown-ups had their tea, that stepmother told the father everything possible that little girl could have done wrong. And a whole bunch of things that she didn't do wrong. And the father believed her. Well, one day, the father had to go a couple of villages over to visit some friends. And the stepmother saw an opportunity. For you see, the stepmother's sister was none other than Baba Yaga, the awful witch. And she said one day to the girl, "Girl, get over here. I've got a shirt that I need to fix. Go into the forest to my sister and borrow a needle and thread from her." There's a needle and thread right here, stepmother. Don't contradict me. That one won't possibly work for the job I have to do. Now, she grabbed a handkerchief and she put a couple of scraps of meat and a couple of bits of cheese and some bread in it and wrapped it up. Take this with you and you go to my sister. And you are not coming back until you have that needle and thread. The girl was scared to death. She knew exactly who that woman's sister was. She heard all the stories about the Baba Yaga. She knew she wasn't going to come back. How do I get there? I don't know where her house is. Her stepmother grabbed her by the nose. She pinched it hard. Do you feel that? Do you know what that is? It's my nose. Very good. You follow that once you get into the forest. You'll take the path till you get to the fallen log. And there you'll turn and follow this nose of yours until you find my sister. Now go! Okay. I'm going. The forests there in old Bohemia aren't like our forests here in America. These are fairly young forests. They're open, and the sun shines down on them. The forests in Bohemia were ancient, and the trees grew up dark and thick, and the only light that fell through was dim and green. And it was quiet, except for the things that were not quiet. The sticks cracking here and there, the sounds of animals off in the distance. She followed along down the road. Eventually, she came to the Baba's house. You knew you were in the right place. The fence was the first thing that ticked you off. The fence around the Baba's yard, all the posts and slats were made of human bones. On top of each post was a skull, and the eyes in the skulls burned brightly and shone out light. She opened the gate. Yeah, it creaked like every movement hurt. Well, will you look at that? How lucky that there's a can of oil here by the gates. My goodness, they need oiling badly. The little girl put some oil on the hinges. Oh, that's better. She stepped through and she saw the Baba's house. Nobody else in all the lands had a house like Baba Yaga's house. For one thing, the house was set up on 2 gigantic chicken legs. And all day long, they turned back and forth. And as she stepped into the yard, those big chicken legs turned so that the house stared straight at her. The 2 windows glowed like malevolent eyes. And the door was there. The big lock on the door was made of sharp iron teeth. Suddenly she heard a noise. It was somebody crying. And she looked off, and there in the side of the yard was one of the Baba's servants. She was crying so hard over the work that the Baba had set her to that she couldn't hardly stop, and all she had to wipe her nose on was her petticoats. And the girl came up. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Here, wait." She took the food out of her handkerchief and put it into her pockets. "Here, take my handkerchief. It's okay." The girl blew her nose. "Hey, dear." She went off to her work. She walked toward the house. She did not know about walking up those steps to that big mouth-like door. There at the bottom of the steps, a dog jumped up, fierce and wild-looking with great big sharp teeth. The girl said, "Oh, my goodness, you poor old dog. You look terribly hungry. It's a good thing I've got some meat and bread here. Here you go, boy." Oh, the dog gobbles it right up. And he lay back down. She knocked at the door. "Come in!" There, sitting at the loom, weaving cloth, was the Baba Yaga herself. It was a wonder that that gigantic nose did not get tangled up in the threads. Her iron hair stuck out in all directions. Her chin curled out and down and could have almost worked as scissors with her great big nose. And there were the warts and the hair sticking out of the warts. The Baba Yaga turned around on her chair and looked at her with fiery red eyes. "Child, what is it you want, huh?" "Oh, hello, dear auntie. My mother has sent me to borrow a needle and thread." "Has she now?" "Dear little niece, it's a pleasure to see you. I'm so glad. You take over my weaving for just a minute, and I'll go find you that thread." The Baba headed out of the house quickly and down the stairs. She went and she found the servant girl. She grabbed her by the ear and said, "Look! You go to the bathhouse. You build me a fire and you get some water hot. Bring my niece to it and scrub her clean. She'll make a tasty supper for me tonight." As the girl came in to get a jug to fill it up, the little girl said, "Please, will you take your time about building the fire? And for heaven's sakes, when you're getting water, use the colander so that all the water runs back out again, will you?" And the girl hurried back out. As the little girl kept weaving, she heard Baba Yaga come by the window. "Are you still weaving, my dear?" "Yes, Aunt, I'm weaving." The shuttle kept going back and forth, the loom going clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Down by the bottom of the loom, near a mouse hole, was the thinnest little black cat you ever did see. The little girl said, "Cat, what are you doing?" The cat looked up at her with its bright yellow eyes. "Oh, I'm waiting for a mouse. It's been 3 days since I had any food at all." And the little girl said, "Oh, you poor thing, what? Isn't it lucky? I still have a little bit of cheese in my pocket. Here you go." Oh, the cat snatched that up. "Oh, thank you. I haven't had anything like that ever. It's so good. Little girl, do you want to get out if you're alive?" "Oh, I do very much. Because you know, my mistress is planning to eat you." Yes, I do." "I tell you what, while she's still in the bathhouse, you take the brush and the towel from off the table, and you run as fast as you can go. But she'll hear that the loom has stopped. I'll take care of that." Baba Yaga was still off in the bathhouse. So the girl grabbed the brush and she grabbed the cloth off the table. As she walked past the cat said, "Now look, she's going to come after you. When she starts to get close, you throw the cloth behind you. It'll turn into a great big river, and it'll take it a long time for her to get across. When she catches up to you again, throw the brush." So the girl headed out the door. She ran down the stairs. The dog jumped up to rip her to pieces. Well, but then it saw it was the nice little girl who had given it food. And it said, "Goodbye, have a good trip." She scratched his ears and lay back down. She headed for the gate, which opened just as silently as it possibly could on its newly oiled hinges. And she took off running as fast as she could go. A few minutes later, out from the bathhouse came the Baba Yaga. "Why is that girl taking so long? Girl, are you still weaving?" "Meow. Yes, I'm still weaving." The cat had no idea how to weave. The loom was a complete and utter mess. All of the strings were tangled and wrapped everywhere. The Baba said, "That is not my dinner talking to me." She came running into the house. "Cat, what's going on? Where's the girl? Why didn't you claw her eyes out?" "Well, in all the years that I've lived with you, you've never given me any food at all. I have to catch my own. She gave me real cheese." Ah! The Yaga went out into the yard. "Dog, why didn't you bark for me? Why didn't you rip that girl to pieces?" "Oh, the nice girl? You know, in all the years I've worked for you, you give me old bones. She gave me some meat and bread. She was nice." She flew toward the gates, which opened silently. "Gates! Why did you not scream?" "Oh, in all the years that we've here, you've never once oiled our hinges, and it hurts so much to open and close. But she oiled us." For miles off, the birds flew in every direction as the Baba Yaga screamed in anger. She flew around the yard, kicking the dog and throwing the cat. She was not a nice person at all. She went and she got her giant mortar and pestle. A mortar and pestle, of course, is a big bowl and a thingy for grinding food. But Baba Yaga, she did not travel by a broomstick, no siree. She traveled by mortar and pestle. She jumped into the giant bowl, and she took the pestle and drove it out behind her, and straight up into the air she shot. I know it's a very strange image. It's terrifying! Ah, giant mortar and pestle! Okay, times change. Off they went. She was hurling along through the air. Down below, through the trees, she could spy the little girl. I'll get you, my tree! Oh, wait, wrong story. The little girl looked back, and she saw her coming. The pestle was coming lower and getting closer and closer to her. And she remembered what the cat had said. She took the cloth, and she threw it behind her. As soon as it hit the ground, the cloth began to grow. Drops of water began to form on top of the cloth, spreading out and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger until in moments there was a vast river stretched out between her and Baba Yaga. As Baba Yaga came up, the mortar and pestle went... For a witch cannot cross an enchanted river. She spun that mortar around and she flew back to her house. She got down and she gathered up all of her cattle. And she drove the cattle to the river and she said, "Go, go, drink, drink." And the cattle went there to the river and they drank every last drop of it. And then she climbed back into the mortar and took the pestle and said, "Go, go." She hit the turbo button. Her iron gray hair was flying out wide. It was a horrified version of a little old lady from Pasadena. And she was catching up. The poor girl saw her coming. No, she'll get me for sure. Wait, she remembered the brush. She threw the brush behind her. It hit the ground and began to sink into the ground and spread out. The teeth and bristles of the brush grew up and higher and spread out branches until there was a vast, thick forest between her and Baba Yaga. So thick that the Baba could not get through it at all. And she was forced to turn around and go home. The little girl ran straight back home. She was scared to death to go inside the house and face her stepmother. She waited out in the woodshed till her father was home. And then she came to him. He saw her terrified face and the tear-stained streaks down her face. He said, "What's going on?" The girl climbed up on his lap and told him everything. When the girl and her stepfather walked in the house together, her stepmother went yellow with rage. She gnashed her teeth so sharply they all cracked and fell out on the spot. And when her father found out what had happened, he sent that wicked old woman away. And he and his daughter lived there in the little house in happiness for the rest of the day. That is a story of Baba Yaga. Now, in Prague, there are lots and lots and lots of stories.